first time I saw Lauren in person, she basically jumped out from behind a column and like accosted me in a bar. And we had already matched on Tinder, so we knew who each other was. Yeah, the day before. And then, you know, I was just walking through the bar with a group of friends, and she just kind of jumped out in front of me and went, "Hi."
She just said, "There's a guy in law school." She was very reticent, very guarded. She said, "He's in my class, he's got red hair. I'm very interested in him." And I could just tell that she really liked Jake.
I had had a dream about Jacob meeting a girl with long hair. And so he told him about my dream. And he said, "Well, what's this girl look like that Mom dreamt about?" So he put me on the phone and I told him, you know, about my dream. And he said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, I've kind of met somebody." I said, "You have?"
There was one piece of advice I gave her that she absolutely ignored. My advice to her was not to get romantically involved with anyone in her first semester of law school. And I think she took that advice for maybe 3 days. So she did not follow my advice at all, but I'm pretty glad she didn't.
We only talked for about 15 minutes.
It wasn't that long.
And then we did make tentative plans to work out together at some point in the future.
To go to the gym. But I think the first time I really knew that this was something serious was when I had a really bad day in class and got basically humiliated in front of everybody. And I texted him about it and he said, "Let's go get ice cream." And we talked about it for hours and it made me feel a lot better. And yeah.
And then they came home for Christmas. We met her at Christmas that year. And she was just as cute as can be, and it was just like they had been dating forever. I mean, even with us, it's like, you know, we knew her forever.
They worked so well together. They were just connected. You could see it right then and there that they were connected to each other. Probably nothing would break that bond that they had.
I was in my brother's Richard's backyard in Lauren, and it was up at Georgetown Law School, and we were on Skype. And so we were talking to Lauren. It was a bunch of us around the TV. And then Lauren says, and she'd been going out with this young man, and she says, "Here he is," and turns him over to the screen, and this poor young man's on there, and everybody says, "Hey, come look at Lauren's boyfriend." And there's 35 people looking at Jake on the screen. That was the first time I ever saw Jake.
I could tell that he was the one. I mean, that she really valued him, respected him, and this was different from anything I'd ever seen before with Lauren. She took it very seriously. And when she brought him home, we went out to eat, and I said, "When will y'all get married?" And she's like, "Shh, you know, be quiet."
You know, we saw them together and we could tell they were serious. But then life threw them a bit of a couple of curveballs, and one of them was when Lauren was hospitalized.
It was February 2016, and I woke up in the middle of the night in severe pain, and I actually passed out twice from the pain, and it was horrific.
So she went into the emergency room Sunday morning, and then Tuesday we got the diagnosis. He said that it was advanced ovarian cancer that looked like there was a 50% chance that it had metastasized throughout your body.
Yeah. So we were basically like given a death sentence.
I couldn't let myself think about what the future would hold if she did die, because I didn't know how or if I could go on if she did. So I just kind of said, well, I'm not going to let that happen, even though I had no control over it whatsoever.
And he laid out his whole plan, and he said, "Okay, Callie, I figured it out. I'm gonna drop out of school for this semester, and I'm gonna move down to Houston so I can be there for all of her surgeries and cancer treatments." And so the whole time, I thought he didn't even understand what was going on, but he was being just calm and steady for me, and the whole time thinking about how he was gonna rearrange his entire life to be what I needed. And we'd only been dating less than a year and a half at that point, I think. So he was my rock, and he brought me joy and smiles when I was in insurmountable pain from the tumor this size that had twisted my ovary. Before they took me off to surgery, they said only 2 people can go back into the pre-op room. And before Jake, that obviously would have been my mom and my dad. And so in that moment, it was this awkward situation where I had Jake and my mom and my dad, the 3 most important people in my life. And my dad just immediately stepped up and he said, Jake should go with you. And so he, kissed me and said, I love you and good luck and I'll see you on the other side of it. But he just, in that moment, it felt like in a way that he acknowledged that you were the most important man in my life and that he was okay with that and that he approved of you and he loved you.
The only joy, the only thing that brought Lauren joy during that time was Jake. Because every time Jake would walk in the room, even though she had this horrible diagnosis, even though she was in terrible pain, her face would light up. And so he spent the night in the hospital with her. And that's when I knew that he was a solid guy.
I just knew Jake would take care of it, that it was there, his love for her was there, and that nothing was going to get in the way.
I think that was when I really realized how much he really loved her and that this is really real.
Then Thursday morning we started getting positive news. They got some blood work back. It didn't look like it was the scary type of ovarian cancer. They had their radiologist look at the scans again and they thought it had not metastasized. They only had to take the one ovary and that it wasn't spread anywhere else and it wasn't what they, what we initially had been told it was. So it was really great.
She's strong, and if she wants to do something, she's gonna get it done. So she took care of that too, as best she could.
It shows real character of a person that stood by, and she lost an ovary, and yet he was just such a man during that whole process.
The maturity of Jake, and he's just an exceptional person. And I had not seen that commitment or love, not even from married people that had been married for years and years. I will go to my grave being in love with Jake because of his commitment to Lauren.
So we knew all along, from the very day one, they were going to get married. It was just so obvious. It was several years they were dating before they got engaged, but you just could tell. You knew that. No, don't you agree?
Absolutely. I told her that my law firm that I had just started working at had an office Halloween party every year. I said, why don't we dress up as Cinderella and Prince Charming?
Here I am. He goes, the bridge or the lake? The bridge or the lake? And I say, Jake, calm down. We can look at both. Let's just go to the lake first because there's a line for the bridge. And he starts saying all these really nice things. And I was kind of shocked that he was speaking like that because usually he doesn't like to be vulnerable like that, especially in public when there are children coming up to me trying to get pictures of me in a Cinderella dress.
So she was kind of teasing me and she didn't really know what was going on. And so finally I was like, all right, I'm just gonna do it. This is clearly not going well.
And then he says, I have a question to ask you. And all of a sudden I turn and there he is. I knew he was, bending over and then he was just on one knee and I was very shocked. It's up for debate whether or not I actually said the word yes. I have since told him many times verbally, yes, I will marry you.
She did kind of shake her head, or
I did.
nod her head.
But I was just mostly crying.
And then the first words out of her mouth were, wait, there's no party?
For the first time I met Jake, I thought he's a keeper. And I was so glad Jake was going to be in our family. And I've always loved him.
Knowing you and being with you has already made me a better person, and you make me want to be better every day. And I can't imagine my life without you because you are such an amazing person and you're so kind and compassionate and strong and dedicated and just amazing in every single way. And I feel privileged to be with you.
The 4 years that we've been together, we've had a lot of really tough times, things going on in our life. All the rest of our days, good or bad, we'll be together. That no matter what comes, that we have each other and that we are with each other. You've been very blessed, but you've been the best gift that I've ever gotten.
They were headed to their April 27th wedding, which was, by the way, a date that Lauren had picked. I think she was in maybe middle school. She looked on a calendar and figured 27 years old would be a good time to get married. April is a great month to get married, and she looked on the calendar way in advance and saw that April 27th was a Saturday, and that meant sense to her. So for them to not make that April 27th date. To have another wrench thrown in, to have something catastrophic happen in their lives, to derail them from their dreams was really tough. And you know, that came in the form of you know, Jake's illness.
All throughout December, I had some strange symptoms, various muscular weaknesses, difficulty speaking, difficulty swallowing, things like that. And I basically couldn't speak.
Lauren called me and she said, "Mom, you have to come listen to Jake speak." And she had this panic in her voice, this sound, you know. And so I went to listen and he was slurring. And we said, you know, we need to take you to the hospital.
He came back and he said, "Yeah, I think you have myasthenia gravis. It's an autoimmune disease. It literally means severe muscle fatigue." And so they did a chest CT and they found a tumor called a thymoma. It's a cancerous tumor. It lives on my thymus gland in my chest.
I don't think there was ever anything that was worse than sitting in the hospital at Georgetown when the doctor, we thought at that time, had given our daughter a death sentence. But somehow Jake's illness overall was more devastating.
It wasn't as scary as when Lauren was sick. Like it's much harder being the person who has to watch the suffering rather than being the sufferer.
They put a feeding tube in, and then they had to carry him up to the ICU because he wasn't breathing.
I kind of had the thought that this might be my life, and if it wasn't my life, that might mean that my life was ending.
She went over the doctor's notes looking and actually found something that they needed to work on. She was like having his own personal doctor. He wouldn't be where he is at if it weren't for her.
And then we were there in the waiting room, and they came in and they said, "He's asking for you." And I literally just like sprinted through the hospital. But that meant he was awake and talking, and that was just a total miracle. I had learned more about what he went through 3 years ago with my tumor from being in that spot. And having been on both sides, it is worse. It is worse to watch.
And I mean, we still don't know at this point for sure about the tumor, but it's out. And as soon as it came out, he was feeling better, and he's just getting better and better every day.
I just think that we'll all be there for Jake forever. And so hopefully he gets completely well and everything gets better. If not, we'll deal with it.
It's now been over 6 months since I was released from the hospital after my surgery, but anytime that I get really frustrated, I just think about what it was like in the hospital and how far I have come, and I think about just how lucky I am and how much worse it could have been.
So in the spot where we're sitting right now, we used to have 4 different flags to mark the space of where we wanted to put a tent. And my mom was so worried about the weather, and tenting was so expensive, that this radical, neat idea popped into her head.
We started building a barn just in case a Texas storm comes through during this dream wedding. And we wanted to give her a dream wedding. You know, we can't fix the problems in life, but we can sure give a fun, great wedding. That's kind of how we felt about it.
So we came out here one day, and there was a concrete slab, and they were putting up these amazing old beams from the 1800s in Maryland. And it was unreal. So we gathered together, a group of close friends and family, in a circle right here in this room, and we prayed over this space, that it would be a place where we could celebrate our wedding, and where countless other brides potentially could come and also celebrate and feel a spirit of joy and comfort and just true happiness when they came in here, and that it could be a place where marriages would start in the best way possible, starting with our marriage. And I think it's beyond anything I'd ever dreamed of my parents doing for me. So Mom and Terry, thank you very much for throwing me not only an amazing wedding, but literally building a dream venue to do it in.
We're excited about the wedding on October 19th. Jake has gotten strong enough that we can imagine them enjoying themselves. They just recently got a new house, which is very exciting for them. And don't know what the future will be. None of us do. Who knows what will happen to any of us tonight or tomorrow or next month. So for right now, they're having a ball, and we are really, really enjoying watching them.
My dad has always just supported me in everything I've ever done. He has lifted me up, and every morning he would say, "Good morning, beautiful one." And he just taught me that that is what I should seek in a man, and that I am all these amazing, wonderful things. Melanie, my stepmom, has been just a true friend. I've just learned a lot from both of them, and I can't imagine being who I am today without them. My mom has always been my very best friend, and it feels like we have shared a heart for, I guess 27 years. They, thus far, kind of besides for Jake, have been the truest example of what Christ's love is for us. I have seen my mom love me sacrificially and generously. Terry, I could try to explain. Watching him learn what it means to be family in a deeper way has been truly a gift to watch.
My dad, who I watched him work 60, 80 hours a week, sometimes 2-3 jobs to make sure that Adam and I had everything. And he truly taught me what it means to be a father and to be a good man. And my mom, she is a large reason for my faith and my spiritual values. My dad was the one who encouraged me to go to Ohio State and go to Georgetown, and so I just love them both, and I can't thank them enough, and I don't thank them enough.
Jake, I've always been so proud of you, and I can see how much you love Lauren and how wonderful she is to you. I know you both are going to have a wonderful life together.
Lauren, I could not ask for a better daughter-in-law. You say for good times and bad, the bad times like this, those are the trials and what really tests your love for each other and your marriage. And I think you guys are going to be just fine.
I want them to do their own thing and to be their own life and make their own decisions. And I just pray for happiness and love, and I'm proud of both of them.
I hope that they'll take time to be happy. Just do fun stuff together and kid each other and flirt with each other. But I just hope they have a good, healthy marriage, a good, healthy life.
And she was determined to do something, she did it. But she has always been sweet to me, and I just hope and pray that she'll find happiness in this marriage and that everything will turn out all right.
No matter what happens, they have each other and to cling to each other. And I just wish for them to be very happy in that initial love that you have as a couple, that they always keep that and have some fun and go and do and explore and keep having fun.
Last thing is, and this is something Jake and Lauren do so wonderfully well together already, and that is keep faith in God number one in your life. And they do that.
What I wish for Jake and Lauren is a whole lot of normal. That's what I want for them. I want them to be able to have children, and I want them to be able to have fun, and I want them to travel, and I want them to have good health. That's what I want for them. And I am as completely convinced as I am of anything that they will achieve those things. I want to tell Jake and Lauren, I love you both very much, and I admire you both very much. I cannot wait to watch you walk down the aisle. I cannot wait to watch you say I do. I couldn't be happier for you. And Lauren, it's been a privilege to be your mom.
Lauren has been just a real treat in my life. I've been with her since she was 8 years old, and I couldn't be more proud of her or love her anymore if she was my own daughter. And of course, we're trusting her to Jake. And we wouldn't be able to do that if we haven't fallen in love with Jake as well.
We always joke that we've got the in sickness part of being married down pat, so I think my first hope would be for some of the health, because we've had basically none of that.
I'm hopeful that we can have the partnership that we have seen in our three parents' marriages. We have seen them go through difficult times. We've seen how they have handled our health difficulties. And I hope that we can be like them. And I pray that our marriage would be filled with growth and learning and compassion for one another and a whole lot of fun.
When I look at the kids, if you have faith and you believe that God has a plan in your life, then as sad and as terrible as it seems, if you turn that just a little bit, it has caused them to be bonded and created an experience of two people together that most couples might have to live 30 or 40, 50 years to experience. And maybe all of this is going to lead to something greater than we could ever imagine.